has officially filed for divorce.
One of Hollywood's longest-standing couples, meticulously carving up their assets and sharing custody of their children.
I'm just happy to have found my great love. I mean, it's that simple. Epic, romantic drama.
Now tell them about the movie.
Are hearing that Keith Urban, at least this is the belief of the people who are in Keith and Nicole's circle, is involved in a relationship with another woman.
They were Hollywood's golden couple, the picture of elegance, devotion, and red carpet chemistry. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban looked like the dream that never faded. But today, that dream has officially shattered. Divorce papers have been filed, and what's emerging from behind those perfect smiles is far darker than anyone could have imagined. For years, fans believed their marriage was the blueprint of love in the spotlight. But what if that love story was a script, a carefully rehearsed act, hiding a fractured reality that neither could sustain? Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear, because trust me, this one goes deeper than it looks.
Of their 14 and 17-year-old kids, talking about possible child support, alimony, everything like that was already squared away, and they had both signed off on it. So while they're not...
Everything is motivated by wanting to take care of your children.
Something that predated the separation? Is it something that has happened after the separation? That's the big question, and unfortunately...
When news first broke that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were calling it quits, the entertainment world froze. This wasn't just another celebrity breakup, it was the collapse of a myth. For nearly 2 decades, they had mastered the art of illusion. Red carpet kisses, intertwined hands, adoring gazes that made even cynics believe in forever. But according to those closest to them, the fairy tale had been on life support for years. Keith and Nicole weren't drifting apart overnight, they had been living parallel lives under the same roof, pretending for the cameras, while the warmth that once defined them had quietly gone cold. Sources say they stopped talking like partners long ago, speaking only through assistance, scheduling around each other, performing for the world but not for themselves. The public saw flawless coordination, but insiders saw choreography, those award show declarations of love, the glowing Instagram captions, the conveniently timed hand-holding. Many now say it was a show, a brand in motion. Behind those curated moments was a reality of resentment, silence, and calculated distance.
Still wanted to try and make the marriage work. Well, not too long after that, we learned that she had kind of given up on that ever happening and had in fact filed for divorce.
Just celebrate the meeting.
Well, we celebrate the meeting, I hope every day.
You know, have met each other. We always say that.
Some even allege
She's magical.
It takes a good woman, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely.
One friend of the couple even described their home as 2 worlds under one roof. Keith disappearing into his music studio for hours, Nicole drowning herself in scripts and production calls. Both were too busy pretending everything was fine to notice how far apart they'd already fallen. It wasn't just a marriage anymore, it was a performance neither of them could stop acting in. And then came the distance, literal and emotional. Nicole threw herself into her filming schedule for Practical Magic 2, while Keith hit the road for his High and Alive world tour. Publicly, it looked like the classic busy schedules explanation, but insiders insist it was deliberate. They had quietly agreed to live apart months before the announcement, hoping that space would cool the tension or at least buy them time to manage the narrative. Hollywood insiders claimed they wanted to avoid the headlines clashing with their biggest projects. Nicole didn't want scandal shadowing her film, and Keith couldn't afford whispers of divorce affecting ticket sales. In other words, this wasn't a split that happened overnight. It was a separation choreographed as carefully as their red carpet smiles. But as calculated as it was, the cracks were impossible to hide. Nicole started appearing at events alone, always elegant, always composed, but noticeably without her wedding ring. Meanwhile, Keith's interviews grew suspiciously selective. He avoided mentioning her altogether, steering every question back to his music. His team reportedly briefed journalists not to bring up his wife. Fans who once swooned over their joint appearances began noticing the silence. And in Hollywood, silence is rarely empty. It's often deafening. Then came whispers of something deeper, the kind of emotional betrayal that doesn't always make headlines but leaves scars all the same. Nicole, according to friends, had begun feeling unsupported. After years of championing Keith through his struggles and celebrating his victories, she noticed a shift. Her career was blooming again, from Big Little Lies to 9 Perfect Strangers, and yet she felt alone in her success. Instead of standing beside her, Keith seemed to step back, immersing himself in his tour life. What should have been her renaissance became a period of emotional isolation. She confided to those close that her husband seemed absent, even when he was in the room physically there, emotionally somewhere else. And that somewhere else quickly became a topic of suspicion. Keith Urban has long been open about his struggles with addiction, having entered rehab just months after marrying Nicole in 2006. At the time, the world called her his savior, the woman who steadied him through chaos. But now, nearly 20 years later, many are asking if those old demons ever truly vanished. Rumors began swirling from his tour stops, whispers of late nights, excessive drinking, and after parties that didn't end when the music did. Fans saw stadium lights, insiders saw warning signs. Nicole allegedly began confronting him, demanding transparency, only to be met with dismissive responses about the life of a touring musician. Friends say that's when her patience ran out. The rumors didn't stop there. Some insiders even claimed Keith's behavior started echoing patterns from his darker past, staying out late, surrounding himself with questionable company, and brushing off responsibility under the guise of artistic freedom. While no proof of infidelity has surfaced, the speculation was relentless. For someone like Nicole, disciplined, image-conscious, built on control and structure, that chaos was unbearable. Her friends reportedly told her to stop protecting him, stop pretending, and start prioritizing herself. They say she realized she had been covering for a man who no longer showed up for her, and when that realization hit, the decision to leave wasn't emotional, it was survival. But not every wound was his. There were fractures forming on both sides. In Hollywood, ego can be the invisible villain that destroys the best-written love story. Nicole's career resurgence made her once again the powerhouse of the household, while Keith's fame, though still significant, couldn't match her global spotlight. According to those in their circle, that imbalance began to sting. He was tired of being introduced as Nicole Kidman's husband. His pride suffered, and their conversations turned competitive. Who had the bigger project? Who got the bigger applause? Love started feeling like a scoreboard. Nicole, on the other hand, reportedly grew tired of his rock star routine, the late nights, the endless touring. The immaturity she felt clashed with the disciplined life she wanted. What had once been passion became rivalry. That tension didn't just stay behind closed doors. Insiders claim you could see it if you knew where to look. The way Keith would interrupt her in interviews, the way she'd subtly pull her hand away on red carpets. Their smiles no longer synced. Their timing was off. To the trained eye, what fans saw as affection was often a quiet battle for dominance, disguised as charm. When love turns into competition, there's no winner, only exhaustion. Even their children couldn't escape the growing divide. The couple's daughters, Sunday and Faith, became silent witnesses to the unraveling of what had once been a family anchored in routine and faith. Nicole, raised with strong Catholic values, reportedly wanted to bring that same structure into her daughters' lives: prayer, discipline, balance. Keith, by contrast, leaned into his bohemian instincts, believing creativity and freedom should define their upbringing. This difference became an ongoing clash, but the real breaking point was geography. Nicole wanted to spend more time in Australia, surrounded by her family. Keith insisted on staying in Nashville, where his music empire thrived. What began as a debate about logistics turned into a full-blown identity war. Friends say it was the moment Nicole realized they were living different lives entirely. By the time cameras caught Nicole without her wedding ring, the decision had already been made. The divorce wasn't spontaneous, it was the finale of a long-written story. Behind the press statements and polite interviews was a marriage that had run its course long before the paperwork made it official. Every choice from Keith's tour schedule to Nicole's film commitments had been part of a silent countdown. They were managing the end before the world even saw the beginning of the fallout. Now that the papers are signed, the spin has begun. Hollywood loves a narrative, and both sides have one. Nicole's camp emphasizes self-reclamation, a woman rediscovering herself after years of emotional neglect. Keith's side is quieter but defiant, a man reclaiming his freedom after living in someone else's shadow. Yet those close to them insist the truth isn't that simple. It's not just addiction, jealousy, or career imbalance. It's the exhaustion of two people who spent years trying to be symbols instead of spouses. They built an image so perfect that there was no room left to be human inside it. Some gossip outlets say the timing of the divorce announcement was more than coincidence. Nicole was about to relaunch herself with practical magic too, while Keith was deep in the promotional cycle for his tour. By dropping the bombshell in this window, both could use the publicity surge, she for visibility, he for sympathy. Whether it was strategy or just survival, it worked. The world is talking again, and for two people who've lived under the spotlight for decades, maybe that's the only constant they understand. But here's where things get even murkier. Keith Urban allegedly revealed the real reason behind their split, and it wasn't about infidelity or fame. Insiders say Keith confessed he couldn't keep living a life where everything was controlled, every smile, every gesture, every headline approved before it hit the press. He reportedly felt suffocated by the need to be perfect, to fit into Nicole's refined world of order and image. He wanted to breathe again, to live without rehearsing. In his words, the love wasn't gone, it was buried under layers of expectation. Nicole, on the other hand, saw his rebellion as recklessness, proof that he wasn't willing to grow up. Two visions of love, completely incompatible, colliding in silence. Now both are moving forward, but in opposite directions. Nicole, ever the strategist, is rumored to be focusing on her international career, eyeing projects in Europe and new production ventures under her company Blossom Films. Keith is reportedly channeling his heartbreak into new music songs insiders say reflect both regret and relief. Some believe this divorce will fuel the most personal album of his career. Others think it will be the making of Nicole's next renaissance. Either way, the world is about to see who they really are without the illusion of us. In the end, maybe this wasn't a story of betrayal or failure, but of truth. The truth that even the most glamorous marriages can suffocate under perfection. The truth that love in Hollywood often survives only as long as the cameras do. And the truth that sometimes walking away isn't about losing someone, it's about finally meeting yourself again. So, as the headlines spin and the speculation swirls, one thing is certain: the truth Keith Urban exposed wasn't just about Nicole, it was about both of them. About what happens when love becomes performance, and the curtain finally falls.